The radio crackled. A voice pierced the static. "We can't make it. We're going down." But no plane on the radar responded. Only silence stretched across the vast Pacific. The pilots gripped their controls tighter, hearts hammering. The ocean below seemed endless, indifferent. The sky above unnervingly quiet. It was 1944 over the Mariana Islands. A squadron of young Allied fighters on routine patrol, engines humming, sunlight glinting off metal wings. A day that should have been ordinary, uneventful, safe. Yet the calm held a tension no one could name. The voice came again, clear calm, yet impossibly urgent, giving coordinates, issuing warnings, instructions that no one aboard could have known. The men looked at one another. Disbelief mingled with rising fear. Who spoke? From where? And why now? Static seemed alive. The hum of the radios shifting into whispers, faint patterns emerging in the noise, impossible to explain, yet undeniably present. Every word precise, every syllable carrying the weight of life and death. Flight logs later described a singular occurrence, the source of the signal officially unknown, yet multiple pilots confirmed it. Miraculous timing. Evasive maneuvers that saved lives. Commands that no human could have anticipated. Whispers had long haunted the islands. Tales of spirits trapped between worlds. Lost aviators wandering the skies. Guardians of the living. Sometimes heard in wind gusts. Sometimes in faint Morse code from forgotten radios. Stories half believed, half feared, now seemingly real. One pilot decades later recounted it with trembling voice. It wasn't from any of us. It wasn't any plane we could see, yet it knew exactly where we were, exactly what to do. A thread between survival and destruction, spun entirely by a voice suspended between life and death. Moments later, flak erupted, precisely where the phantom voice had predicted. The squadron maneuvered as instructed. All survived. Yet the origin of the guidance vanished, leaving awe, fear, and lingering questions no record could answer. The sky returned to its ordinary blue, yet the pilots carried the impossible with them. Echoes of a guardian voice, hovering somewhere between legend and reality, watching, waiting, never fully gone. It was early morning over the Mariana Islands, 1944. The sun hung low on the horizon, casting long shadows across the waves. A squadron of Allied fighter planes sliced through the sky. Young pilots recently trained, eager to prove themselves. Each cockpit a metal cocoon humming with instruments, dials flickering, radios, static-filled. Orders were routine maps, double-checked, coordinates filed. Yet an unease clung to the air. Subtle, almost imperceptible, like a warning whispered by the sea itself. The ocean below stretched endlessly, a liquid expanse that reflected the sky. Deceptively calm, hiding currents and depths that could swallow the unwary. The pilots were aware, of course, of the dangers inherent in every flight. But something about that morning felt different. A tension that neither training nor experience could explain. Each pilot sat tense in his cockpit, gloves tight on controls, eyes scanning instruments and sky alike. The routine chatter in the squadron was quiet, clipped, almost nervous, though no one spoke of it aloud. The air itself seemed to press in, charged with anticipation, a silent audience waiting for what was to come. Flight plans called for standard reconnaissance, a sweep of the island's perimeter recording positions of enemy activity. Nothing extraordinary. Yet previous patrols had recorded anomalies, unidentifiable radar blips, sudden static in communications, mysterious signals appearing and disappearing. Voices faintly heard amid the crackle. Pilots reporting fleeting glimpses of shadows or aircraft that vanished without a trace. Official logs dismissed it all as anomalies. Islanders had long told stories of the skies, whispered of wandering spirits, of aviators lost, never returned yet, hovering somewhere between life and death. Guardian voices guiding the living to safety. Warnings carried by wind and wave. Sailors and fishermen spoke of radios that turned on without warning, broadcasting voices that were not there. Fleeting glimpses of figures among the clouds. Tales that felt impossible yet persisted across generations. The squadron's leader, a young captain known for calm under pressure, felt the weight of responsibility. Each decision held life or death consequences. He had heard the rumors, the whispers of guardian spirits in the Pacific. He dismissed them logically. Yet he could not shake a feeling of being watched, of currents in the sky that shifted imperceptibly, like some unseen presence marking their flight path. As the planes moved in formation, engines humming, sunlight reflecting off polished metal, the squadron entered the patrol zone, a place where the horizon seemed infinite, and clouds could mask threats with ease. The Pacific could turn from serene to deadly in moments. Every pilot knew the danger, yet a sense of anticipation hung in the air. The sky ordinary to the eye, yet charged, almost sentient. Logs from that day describe calm at first, instruments functioning, communication lines open. Nothing extraordinary. Yet decades later, pilots recounted subtle oddities, fleeting impressions of being observed, strange patterns in radio static, whispers carried on the wind, details that the mind struggled to interpret, a subtle anxiety no checklist could erase. Folklore suggested these islands were sacred, liminal spaces where the living and dead intersected, where spirits lingered guiding the living through peril. Sailors told of phantom lights dancing on the horizon, voices carried by wind untraceable yet precise in timing, warnings manifesting just in time to prevent disaster. These tales lingered in the subconscious of pilots who had flown these skies, half remembered, half feared. By mid-morning, the squadron reached its waypoint. Instruments read calm skies, clear routes, yet the tension persisted. Every pilot aware that the Pacific, while seemingly benign, held secrets. Memories of previous anomalies tugged at the edges of consciousness. Something unseen waited. Something that would soon manifest. Something that would blur the line between legend and reality. The squadron pressed on, engines humming steadily, the sun climbing higher over the Mariana Islands. The Pacific below stretched like a vast mirror, deceptively calm. Previous patrols had recorded anomalies, blips on radar that disappeared as quickly as they appeared, transmissions lost mid-flight, voices faintly heard in static. Official logs dismissed it all as technical errors or anomalies, yet the pilots knew better. A silent awareness grew among them. Something was watching, something was guiding. In one cockpit, a young pilot adjusted his headset, squinting at the horizon. He recalled later in his journal, a voice came over the radio, precise, calm, giving us coordinates, instructions, and warnings. We obeyed, though none of us could explain why we trusted it. The handwriting trembled across the pages, conveying awe, fear, and an unshakable sense of something beyond human understanding. Military records confirm that the squadron encountered heavy anti-aircraft fire, bursts of flak rising like metallic flowers into the blue sky. Yet the pilot's evasive maneuvers matched the guidance of the phantom voice. Turns, dives, and climbs executed with exact precision. Radar showed no friendly aircraft transmitting these instructions. The source remained invisible, intangible, miraculous, life-saving. Flight logs mark this event as a singular occurrence. The squadron was alone in the area, no other units nearby. No authorized radio transmissions could have accounted for the instructions. Yet the orders continued, guiding them away from imminent danger. Each command aligned with flak bursts, each maneuver a narrow escape from destruction. a lifeline documented in reports, but officially unexplained. Local islanders' oral accounts add an eerie corroboration. Fishermen and coconut farmers spoke of flashes in the sky, radios spontaneously activating with distant voices, whispers in the wind that seemed to give warning. They called it the guardian of the skies, a lost aviator, or spirit guiding those still alive. The folklore and fact intertwine here, each feeding the other, a pattern of unseen intervention stretching across generations. A pilot later wrote, "I followed a voice that was not mine. It told me to turn left." Seconds later, flak exploded exactly where I would have been. Every instruction matched life or death. I do not know who it was, but it saved us. The testimony was chilling in its clarity, corroborated by other pilots in independent accounts. Identical maneuvers, identical timings, repeated across multiple diaries. A convergence of fact and mystery. Official investigations documented no mechanical failures, no miscommunications, no enemy interference. Only the singular, untraceable instructions. Precise life-saving. The phenomenon classified as unexplained. A ghostly intervention recorded in archives but never fully explained. The data exists, yet the source eludes explanation, leaving only the pilot's memories as evidence. Even the squadron commander noted in a confidential report, "I cannot explain what guided us. It was not any man aboard. It was not our instruments. Yet it knew our position, the flak the enemy, and we survived." A voice from somewhere beyond. Words echo through history, blurring the line between fact legend and something inexplicably supernatural. Historians examining these events noticed recurring motifs across theaters of war. Spectral guidance appearing repeatedly. Voices directing pilots, ships, and crews. Precise life-saving, yet leaving no trace. Reports from Europe, the Pacific, Korea. Phantom advisors, they called them. A pattern suggesting something more than coincidence. A phenomenon that challenges the boundaries of reason. The patrol ended. All aircraft returned safely. Minor damage sustained. Yet one variable remained untraceable. The voice. No call sign. No transmitter. No identifiable source. Only the memory of those who heard it. Diaries, testimonies, whispers in the wind. A puzzle recorded in military archives. A miracle officially unexplained. A guardian unseen and unforgettable. Long before the war reached the Mariana Islands, the local villagers whispered stories that had survived generations. Tales of spirits that roamed the skies above the ocean. Guardians of travelers both by sea and air. Aviators lost in storms or swallowed by the waves whose souls never found rest. Yet their presence lingered, watching, intervening, guiding the living in moments of peril. Fishermen spoke of nights when radios would crackle without power. Faint voices issuing warnings or directions, sometimes in a language they did not understand. Other times echoing the very phrases later recorded by pilots. They called these entities the sky spirits, invisible yet unmistakably present, a bridge between the living and the dead. The elders told of winds carrying whispered instructions, currents in the air that seemed to have intent, a warning in a gust, a signal in the rustle of coconut palms. Every storm and every clear morning held the potential for these messages. Folklore and environment merging into a subtle, omnipresent guide. Pilots who had grown up hearing such stories often laughed them off. Superstition had no place in the cockpit. Yet once airborne over the endless blue, with nothing but sky and ocean stretching out, the stories began to weigh differently. A subtle sense that unseen eyes observed them, that the air itself could speak, and sometimes it did. One consistent motif emerges from multiple accounts. A voice in the radio static, calm, precise, life-saving, giving coordinates, issuing evasive instructions, commands that no human aboard could have anticipated. Diaries, testimonies, and oral histories all converge, a phantom guardian straddling the line between myth and reality. Islanders told of lights in the horizon, brief flashes, inexplicable, rhythmic, almost deliberate. Some appearing just as military aircraft approached. They described an uncanny timing, a presence that seemed to anticipate events. These occurrences, though dismissed in official reports, persisted in memory, blending folklore and the tangible. Veterans recounted experiences that defied logic. Radios functioning perfectly, yet issuing commands from nowhere. Guidance that matched enemy positions and flak bursts with uncanny precision. Maneuvers that could only have been dictated by something beyond human calculation. The legends they once dismissed became chillingly real. A pilot's diary reads, "It felt alive, as if the air itself knew our positions. It whispered to us, guided our hands, saved our lives. I cannot explain it. Yet it was there, undeniably, watching, helping." The words resonate across decades, a testament to events that straddle the line between historical record and mythic narrative. Historians reviewing these events note recurring patterns, spectral guidance appearing in different theaters of war, phantom voices, unseen advisors, always precise, always life-saving, a phenomenon documented in diaries, oral histories, and folklore, suggesting that the boundaries between fact and legend are porous, that some mysteries endure beyond explanation. Even decades later, pilots, villagers, and sailors alike spoke of the Pacific as haunted, not in fear but in reverence, the skies and seas carrying echoes of those who had come before. A guardian presence, unseen yet felt, reminding all who traverse these waters that survival sometimes depends on forces invisible, mysterious, yet undeniably real. The morning patrol had ended, and the squadron returned to base engines winding down the hum of the aircraft, fading into the Pacific breeze. Yet the memory of the voice lingered in every cockpit, an untraceable presence that had guided them, a guardian that appeared in the critical moment, invisible, intangible, yet undeniably real to those who had heard it. Across the Pacific, reports began to surface from other units. Fighter squadrons, reconnaissance planes, even naval aviators. Similar accounts of voices breaking through static, precise calm directing maneuvers with uncanny timing, instructions no human aboard could have known, saving lives that might otherwise have been lost. Europe bore witness to similar phenomena. Luftwaffe and Allied pilots alike noted inexplicable radio signals, ghostly commands directing evasive action, entire formations spared from flak and anti-aircraft fire. Radar showed nothing. Radio logs were blank, only the recollections of the men who flew recording what they could. Handwriting shaking in logbooks, voices impossible to trace. In the Mediterranean, bomber crews documented near-identical events, warnings in static, coordinates for evasive turns, orders that aligned perfectly with enemy positions, life-saving guidance appearing at the precise moment. Yet no source, no transmitter. Only a presence felt remembered and sometimes whispered of in folklore. Korea, too, carried its own echoes. Ground crews reporting strange interference on radio lines, pilots hearing voices in static when the situation was most dire, guiding formations through treacherous terrain, preventing casualties. The motif of the unseen guardian reappearing, connecting continents, oceans, wars, and generations. Folklore intertwined with these reports. Sailors and villagers recounted stories of watchers in the sky, spirits guiding the living. Warnings carried by wind wave and radio waves. Across cultures and oceans, the same story repeated, unseen forces intervening at moments of extreme peril, survival dependent on something beyond human comprehension. Veterans' testimonies converge. It was everywhere and nowhere at once, guiding us. Precise calm. We followed because it saved us. Seconds mattered, lives depended on it, and it never failed. The convergence of diary entries, logbooks, and oral histories points to a persistent phenomenon. Fact and legend entwined. Pattern undeniable. Researchers reviewing these events note recurring characteristics, always appearing at critical moments. Guidance always timely, never arbitrary, always life-saving, and yet untraceable. Across decades and conflicts, a phenomenon that seems almost sentient, aware of the lives at stake, responding with precision. Modern aviators sometimes report echoes of the same phenomenon. Subtle signals, unexplained voices in static, guidance at crucial moments. The motif transcends a single war. Pacific, European, Mediterranean, Korean skies, a persistent pattern, connecting past and present, fact and folklore. A presence that watches, intervenes, saves. Yet despite all accounts, despite corroborating testimonies across continents and decades, no scientific or technical explanation has sufficed. No mechanical error, no human transmitter, only the evidence of intervention, subtle, precise, life-saving, and forever unaccountable. Leaving a lingering question: what force moves through the air unseen, guiding those who traverse the deadly skies of war? Flak erupted across the Pacific horizon. Bursts of steel tearing the sky apart. Pilots clutched their controls, knuckles white. Every second stretched. Eternity compressed into heartbeats. The voice returned calm yet commanding. Turn left, ascend to 2000. Evasive maneuver now. Each word delivered with the precision of a map etched into the air. Every instruction aligning perfectly with the deadly bursts surrounding them. In one cockpit, a young pilot felt the impossible, a presence guiding him. Every turn, every climb dictated by the unseen. Flak that would have destroyed them narrowly missing. Survival dependent on obedience to a voice that had no physical source. Handwriting in his later journal trembled with disbelief and awe. It was not our radio, not our squadron, yet it saved us. The commander watched the squadron, noting every maneuver, every near miss, explosions shimmering like metallic flowers around them. The coordination uncanny. No human could have directed them with such exactness. The voice had transformed chaos into order, destruction into salvation. Another pilot recounted the moment as surreal. Time slowed, sky and ocean stretching endlessly, flak detonating in deadly rhythm, yet the voice guided them with perfect timing. Left climb roll. Maneuvers that saved lives, each decision orchestrated by a presence invisible, intangible, ghostly, yet profoundly real. Flight logs corroborate the testimonies. Maneuvers executed with life-saving precision. Radar and communication equipment recorded nothing. No other aircraft in the vicinity. No source. Only the squadron alive and bewildered. Only the memory of the phantom guidance and the static that carried it, lingering like a shadow in their minds. Island observers later reported unusual phenomena. Flashes of light, odd distortions in radio transmissions, whispers of a voice carried by wind and wave. The folklore of the guardian of the skies suddenly tied to documented events. Legend meeting fact. The improbable made tangible. Some pilots described a sensation almost physical, a pressure in the cockpit, a subtle push guiding them away from danger, invisible hands on controls, currents in the air carrying intent, moments where instinct alone could not have sufficed, survival threaded by the unseen. orchestrated by the impossible. The squadron commander's confidential report captured the magnitude. I cannot explain what guided us, not aboard our planes, not from our instruments. Yet it knew enemy positions. It anticipated every flak burst, and we survived. The voice saved lives, and then it vanished. The acknowledgement chills the spine, a historic record admitting to the unexplainable. Historians reviewing diaries, reports, and oral accounts noted striking consistencies. Independent testimonies matched exactly. Maneuvers, timing, and guidance recurring across multiple aircraft and squadrons, across theaters of war. The phenomenon was not isolated. It suggested a persistent, unseen presence, blending history with myth. After the patrol, the voice left no trace, no call sign, no transmitter, no mechanical anomaly, only preserved lives, trembling diaries, meticulous logs, and the haunting question: what force moved unseen among them? Guiding, watching, saving. Something beyond explanation. Something that endures in memory and legend alike. The squadron returned to base, engines winding down. The Pacific stretched endlessly, a vast, indifferent expanse beneath them. Men disembarked, faces pale, eyes haunted, each carrying the impossible in memory. The voice that had guided them, that had saved them, vanished as suddenly as it had appeared, leaving only questions and the shadow of what might have been. In the weeks that followed, whispers circulated, stories told in hushed tones among pilots in mess halls and quarters, tales of the guardian in the skies, of a presence that appeared at the edge of perception, blending fact and folklore, history and legend. Survivors recounting events that seemed impossible, yet undeniably real. Locals on the islands remembered too, flashes of light that danced on the horizon, radios crackling with voices when no transmitter was on, winds carrying words that warned, guided, or reassured, echoes of the extraordinary lingering in the air, a reminder that some forces are invisible, yet deeply felt, shaping the course of survival. Historians piecing together these fragments noted patterns: phantom guidance recurring across theaters of war. In Europe, the Pacific, Korea, and beyond, voices appearing when lives hung by the narrowest thread. Maneuvers executed with precision only explained by the unseen. A motif stretching across time and space, connecting survivors, witnesses, and those who never returned. And yet, the central question endures. Who or what was the voice, a fallen comrade trapped between worlds? A guardian spirit watching over the living, or something beyond human comprehension? Intervening at moments when fate teeters on the edge, orchestrating survival with perfect timing, unseen, unknowable. Even decades later, pilots and sailors report fleeting echoes, faint signals, whispers in static, glimpses of movements among clouds, subtle nudges when danger looms, evidence that the motif persists, that the phenomenon transcends a single battle, a single war, a presence woven into the very fabric of the skies. Some say it was coincidence. Others believe it's something extraordinary, a force moving through the air imperceptible, watching, waiting, guiding, leaving behind only lives, saved memories, trembling in diaries and legends that refuse to fade. A puzzle unresolved, yet undeniable. The Pacific skies remain vast, empty to the eye. Yet some claim they carry whispers still, shadows of the unseen guardian, moving between waves over clouds threading across the horizon. A reminder that survival often depends on forces beyond understanding, forces that leave no trace, only memory, only awe. And so the mystery endures. The phantom voice, the invisible guide, the guardian of the skies, remains just beyond reach, a whisper in the static, a shadow on the horizon, leaving us to ask when we look to the skies above, are we truly alone? Or is someone, or something, still watching, still guiding? You've just witnessed another file from Echoes of the Unknown. If you wish to uncover more untold stories and unexplained phenomena of war, subscribe now and step closer to the mysteries that linger just beyond the horizon.